Hey everybody, David the AI Guide here. Welcome to another episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. And before anything else, I want to say that I will be doing a live stream this next Sunday, which will be October 3rd at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So check it out. I will be talking about what's happening right now with AI in a bunch of different industries, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. So live stream next Sunday, October 3rd, 2021, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, US. And with that, thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And also buy my new book on Amazon called The Beginner's Guide to AI. It's a very easy read, and I think you'll enjoy it. It really gives a great overview of the history of AI from the beginning to now, and then talks about how AI is used today, right now, in 10 or 11 different industries. So check it out on Amazon, and I hope you like it. So today I want to talk about something I've never talked about before, but it's important. So I saw an article this week about advanced air mobility, which is another term for UAM, unmanned air mobility, or urban air mobility. Autonomous flight is what I'm talking about. And this is a paradigm change for airlines. It will completely disrupt the existing airline industry because you'll be able to fly point to point with only a few people. At first, these will be like the trucks are now, semi-autonomous, meaning the AI does most of the flying, but there is a pilot standing there, but eventually it'll be no pilot. But that isn't what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about is how do all these different companies, of which there's somewhere between 8 and 10 companies right now pursuing urban air mobility. There's also a bunch of companies pursuing self-driving, both for trucks and for local deliveries, delivery vans, and even the robotic delivery units that bring packages right to your door. So who is funding all this stuff? Because in the business world, this is how it works. First of all, if you're a huge corporation, and check out the next video, which will talk about this, but if you're a huge corporation, you already have a lot of revenue and you're already profitable, so you can allocate some of your money to developing new technologies. So that's easy. But what about startups? What about companies that have zero in sales so far? So there's a couple of different ways that companies get money to be able to develop their ideas and commercialize them and get to revenue and start making revenue. And they're still going to lose money early in the revenue cycle, but once they ramp up to a certain level, they'll hit break even and then profitability. So the first way you can get funded when you have no revenue is venture capital. Some of you will know what that is, some of you won't. But venture capital is pools of money by sophisticated investors, and they evaluate startups and they fund ones that they believe have potential to become what they call the next unicorn, which is a unicorn is a startup that then reaches $1 billion in valuation. That's not revenue, that's value of stock. So when a company is first started, the founders hold all the stock, right? And then what they will do is give venture capitalists some of the stock for some money. And at the beginning, you have to give up large pieces of stock to get venture funding. But if you get through the first funding round, which they call Series A, to the second one, Series B, Series C, Series D, then you end up giving up smaller and smaller pieces of stock because your concept has been proven, you're moving towards revenue, or you are starting to make some revenue, but you're still losing money. That's why you have to keep raising money. So that's one way, but you give up partial control of your business that way. There's another way, and this way has become very, very popular, and this is how most of the companies are doing it now, and it's called an SPAC or SPAC. And here's how that works. So an entity that is public, but basically is what they call a shell, meaning it has no real business, but they can use this public entity to raise money on the public markets, either stock or debt or both. And let's say I have a SPAC and I need $50 million to really getting my company go. I can sell 50 million of stock, or I can sell 50 million of stock and bonds, or all bonds, but bonds you have to pay interest on and then principal later. So that's tougher for a startup. So usually you're going to sell stock, but you wouldn't sell all 50 million at first because you'd give up a lot of the company to do that. You might raise 5 or 10 million at first for a slice of the ownership, and then later raise another 10 million and another. And then once this public entity raises the money, however much it is, let's say $10 million, they merge the startup company into the public company, and it becomes public, and the stock is trading, and they have the $10 million, less fees, right? There's people called investment bankers who raise money for companies in the public markets. So part of each fundraising effort goes to the investment bankers for the work they do, and the rest goes to the company. So out of 10 million, maybe the fees are a couple of million and you get 8 million, for example, depending on how the raise is done and a lot of other things. The fees vary a lot. So this is how companies raise money. Why? Because let's take self-driving companies or the urban air mobility, advanced air mobility companies. There's a very long cycle here, right? I mean, there are self-driving car companies. Waymo was part of Google and it's been spun off, but obviously Google funded all of their early work. But the cycle is about 10 years for a company to come up with a concept, develop it, make it, in the case of Waymo, all the hardware that goes on a vehicle that they don't make, to make it fully autonomous or partially autonomous at the beginning. And then they start they do testing with it, right? They've been doing that in Arizona, Waymo, for years now. And it's about to get to commercialization, which means they'll start making real money from it. But that's a long time, 10 years. Well, you could easily spend $1 million a year over 10 years and need $10 million to get your company from idea to revenue. So this is why companies have to raise money, because some things take a long time. Urban air mobility is another one. This is a long cycle time. They will be able to bring it to market in about, it's not quite 10 years, it'll be between 5 and 7, with a pilot still sitting there monitoring controls, not flying it, but just monitoring it, and definitely 10 years to get to full autonomy. So this requires a lot of money, and either you're a part of a huge corporation, which, as I said, we'll talk about in the next video, or you are a startup and you have to raise money, and you can only do that from friends and family, which is usually not very much. So then you really have to either go to venture capital or one of these SPACs where money is raised by an investment banker in the public markets, and then you merge your company into it. You're going to give up some of the ownership, but maybe less than you do in venture capital. So these are the things that entrepreneurs have to think about as they grow and mature their business: is how am I going to get money? How am I going to fund it? How long am I going to need funding for? What's the best way to fund it? And that's just one thing, of course. I mean, you have to develop and perfect your product or service and start testing it, and then start commercializing it, rolling it out, and trying to make revenue. But the funding is critical and important. So it's good for you to understand how this all works. That's it for this video. Thanks a lot. Remember, live stream next Sunday, October 3rd, 2021, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, US. And we're going to basically do a state of the world on AI for half an hour or so. And we'll do more live streams after this one. This is just to get going on that. And then we'll probably increase them to an hour or so. But thanks a lot. Take care. See you next time.